and welcome to Your Mind, Your Reality, Your Results, a weekly live show where I speak with an expert in the subject of mindset so you can change your mindset and ultimately get the amazing results that you want in your life. I'm so pleased to be welcoming Martin Salama to the show today. Welcome.
Thank you, Leah. I'm so excited to be here.
Excellent. Well, I'm excited to have you too. The audience should be excited. If we haven't met before, by the way, my name's Leah Fink. I'm the owner of All Thrive, and I give people the skills they need to have amazing personal and professional relationships. If you want to know more or even have a complimentary consultation, you can go to meetleah.ca, and that is in the description. But you are not just here for my expertise today. You are here to hear from Martin because he has some fantastic content. So if we're going through and you have any questions, any comments, please feel free to add those. Even if you're watching this and we are no longer live, if you put your comments and questions in, we can make sure to get back to you. So, Martin, as I love to start the show, would you like to share a little bit with us about how you got to be here today?
Sure. So I'm known as the architect of the Warrior's Life Code, and life stands for live incredibly full every day. All right. So, and that came from going through the ups and downs of life over the last almost 60 years. I'm almost 60 years old, believe it or not. I know. I look 35. I get it.
I was going to say, yeah.
But I'm 60. I'll be 60 in about a month. And what happened is in 2008, my wife and I were working on a project for 5 years to build a multi-million-dollar health and tennis center in New Jersey. And we'd finally gotten all the approvals from the state, from the city, and we were ready to go. Go to the bank. I'm like, great bank. I've been spending the last 5 years spending my own money, looking forward to now getting reimbursed and get going into the ground. And they're like, yeah, we're not lending right now. The world's about to fall apart. What are you talking about? I said, you'll see. A month later, September 2008, the world fell apart. I lost every penny I had. I was overnight, I was broke. And it took me about a year to pick myself off the floor from there and say, what the hell am I going to do now? And finally, about a year later, I got through that whole depression that I was in. And I said, okay, what am I going to do? And I look back in my life and I realized the times I was happiest is when I was involved in community organizations helping. And I realized it was a good coach, not even realizing what a coach was, even though I had some life coaches in my past. So I said, okay, great. I'm going to go to life coaching school. A couple of months later, as I'm getting prepared to go to life coaching school, it's my 24th wedding anniversary. And my wife says to me, I'm done. I want a divorce. It's like, oh, what? I was kind of like taken aback. I was mad, sad, every emotion. And I should have said to her, and I didn't get you anything like that for our anniversary. But I didn't. But looking back now, it was the greatest gift she ever could have given me, because it prepared me. And I think God had a plan for me to go into life coaching and saying, you really need to change your life. And this is a kick in the pants to tell you to do that. Going through life coaching, I realized that I did need to change. I realized that I was a people pleaser. I took everything personally. I was a control freak, and I had a very short temper. So I learned that having those default tendencies did not have to define me, and I can change myself.
Wow. Those are some pretty big revelations from some pretty big life events.
Yeah.
I'm wondering, because you talked a little bit about that kind of depression that you fell into, because losing everything, I can imagine, would be incredibly impactful, and then separating from your wife. Do you feel that those were some pieces that were already bubbling before you went into life coaching that were helping you on this path? And what was the next piece that kind of, I guess, sunk in or evolved you next?
Yeah, there were definitely pieces. There were signs that we were not happy. We were going to therapists, couples therapy and all that. And I was really on depression. I was in a depression. It was a situational depression.
Totally.
It wasn't, thank God, physiological, even though I was on some medication like Wellbutrin. And one day I was so broke that I stopped paying my insurance, my health insurance, and I couldn't buy the drugs. So I said, okay, I looked at myself. I said, you know what? I really don't need to have the drugs. It's about me changing my life. And I did that. And then I said, okay, now what am I going to do? So there were things leading up to it. And there were signs leading up to my wife and I. And what I learned was that we were we were actually officially married for 25 years by the time we got divorced. We were in a codependent relationship the whole time because I didn't know how to say no to her. And a lot of that came from my lack of self-worth and fear of not being loved again. And so I would give in to her. And I'm not blaming her for that. That was me. If I was strong enough, I could have said no. But eventually that's what it was. And I learned all those things because I was at a low point in my life.
Totally. Well, from what I understand too, what you're sharing today, because we had a little bit of a chance to talk before, is about maybe why those things were coming into your life and how you can shift that, because I'm guessing most people don't want to lose all their money and go through those kinds of relationships. So do you want to tell us first a little bit about how you see the law of attraction and kind of what that means?
Absolutely. So I heard about the law of attraction right around this time, 2007, 8, 9, like that. And looking back now, I realized that what I was telling myself was that I don't want to get divorced because I knew it was coming. But you know what the universe heard? Divorce.
Yeah.
And that's what the law of attraction is. I mean, I have a breakdown. If you'd like, I could read to you a little bit about what somebody said about the law of attraction.
Sure.
Let me pull it open here a second. Where is it? I had it. The law of attraction is asking the universe for what you want is not enough. Is really not enough. So the law of attraction, what that is, it's saying of that the definition is I attract to my life whatever I give my energy, focus, and attention to, whether wanted or unwanted. Even though you may have never heard of the law of attraction, or even though you may not fully understand the law of attraction, you're still living by its laws because it's a universal law that operates in our lives every minute of every day. Our feelings and moods emit vibrations, positively or negatively, high or low frequency, that draw us to people, places, things, and events that match our own vibrations. At every moment, I am offering a vibration, either positive or negative, and at every moment, the law of attraction responds to that vibration, giving me more of the same, whether wanted or unwanted. So it goes a little further than that, but that basically gives you an idea of what the law of attraction is. So once I started to internalize this more, I realized that I was attracting those negative things into my life. And going through life coaching helped me recognize the things that I was saying I can't and this won't and all that. And then I was lucky enough to be learning from someone, another coach, deeper meanings, and that the law of attraction is just the foundation to what has to happen to make things happen, to change.
Yeah. And I like those definitions. And for people, I think some people see it as this very, woo-woo vibrations. Even for people who are maybe not into the universe language and that thought, even just the idea of, like you said, putting out the word divorce a lot. It's like when you drive, you don't look at the trees on the side of the road and stare and say, I hope I don't hit that, because your car is just going to drive into them, right? So that piece of even just like what you're saying to yourself, and that's, like this show is so powerful, like your mindset, what are you focusing on? So, I love that. And so now when you're talking about this being a base, because I know some people they just invest in that concept, what is it the base of? What does it lead to?
Right. So saying the law of attraction, if you take it and just from what I said now, so in your mind you go, okay, I'll think positive things. I'll think, the lottery's a 1.5 billion right now. Oh, I'm going to win the lottery. It doesn't work that way. You'd like to think it does, but there's so much more. So that's why that definition is important, but it's not enough. And it's about taking it to the next level by adding what I call the cycle of A's.
Okay.
Right.
What are the cycle of A's? Tell me more.
All right. So the cycle of A's is something I learned from somebody and changed around a little bit and to suit how I felt about it. And so for me, it's 3-letter A's. The first one is ask, which is kind of like what the law of attraction is. Ask the universe for what you want. Put it out there. Say, this is what I want. And the more you do that, the more you, and there's a difference between want and desire. Okay. Want comes from a mindset of lack. Desire comes from a mindset of abundance. So you're asking for what you want, but you're really asking for what you desire. Okay. And you can't be saying, oh, I really want this to happen. I can't. Because the universe is hearing that negativity and that desperation. Okay. I'm not a woo-woo guy, but I do believe in this whole concept of what you put out there comes back to you. Totally. Right? If you put out positivity, positivity comes back to you. If you put out negativity, that's the same thing. Do we really care at the end of the day who the president of the United States is? Is it going to make us a change in our day to day? Yeah. Probably not. So the more you worry about it, the more you're going to obsess over it. So that's the first part. It's recognizing that asking for it is asking for your desires to come true, but not, and that's where a couple of the other A's come in. And so let me go on to that one. The second one is act. So ask for what you want and then act to getting it. Just asking the universe for it isn't enough. Yeah. I mean, if that's the case, oh, I wish upon a star, and then boom, here we are. It doesn't work. Don't we all wish we could be like back in the 70s and 80s? There was a show called Bewitched, where she would, just snap her fingers and she'd have whatever she wants. It doesn't work that way. That's not the magic we're talking about here. Yeah. So the second one is start doing the work to get what you want. That's the acting. And then the third one comes in, and it's the most important one. It's attitude. Ask, act, and attitude. And that's having an attitude of, I don't care what the outcome is. Right? Because as I said, if you put the action of, oh, I really need to have this, you're not going to get it. Because the more you have that want, that mindset of lack, the more it doesn't come. And I talk about it a little deeper in my course, where I help people go from lack to abundance, but what I really do is help them go from self-conscious to self-aware. The self-conscious comes from guilt and negativity and trying to prove yourself to others or your ego, feeding your ego. Self-awareness comes from humility, and I'm very happy and I'm content in where I am in my life. So now if you take that attitude and put it into this, then when things start happening and it's not exactly what you want it to happen, you look at it and you go, why is the universe sending this to me? And you go, wait a minute, maybe it's telling me I need a little bit of a course correction.
Yeah. Oh, there's so many points there that I love. I think I'll actually start. So, I use slightly different language from an addiction and mental health program I worked in, but we talked about things being at risk versus at stake. And so that's really what I'm hearing you talk about with this piece of, are you worried about the negative or looking towards the positive? And we use the metaphor because we're an outdoor wilderness-based program. There's a big difference between a guy who is rock climbing and he takes a couple steps up and he grips onto the wall and looks down like he's about to die. There's your at risk, because all you're thinking is don't fall to the ground, don't fall to the ground, don't fall to the ground.
Exactly.
Whereas at stake is the guy who's climbing up the wall and thinking, like, what is up there? What can I get to? So I just want to reiterate. And of course, our brains have that lovely survival negativity bias. It's harder, unfortunately, to go to that at stake place. So I love that you're helping people get over that hurdle, really, because I would argue that is maybe the biggest limiting factor is how do you switch that?
Yes, absolutely. So it is a difficult thing. And I want to be honest, it doesn't take overnight. It's not like, boom, that's it. It takes work, and you're going to fail a bunch of times in it. But each time you fail, you have the opportunity to look back and say, why did I fail? And what can I do? Because to me, failure is nothing more than lessons. Yep. To do something better the next time. And, you talked about the risk and at stake. I love it. It's the same thing as that I talk with my clients about. I've got to, or I get to. Oh, I've got to go to work, or I get to go to work. I've got to get to the supermarket, or I get to go to the supermarket and shop and make somebody laugh. Part of my thing is to make somebody laugh every day. It's like part of my quota of the day. So I like to usually do it with the cashier, because I know she's having a tough day or he's having a tough day. So if I can make them laugh a little bit, makes me feel better, makes her feel better too.
I love that. And the whole idea that you're talking about, this is really the core of this whole show, and I wish it was that easy, and I wouldn't need a show, of course, if you could just say, I'm going to think this way, I'm going to think that way. And of course, we know that it is this consistent practice. So when your clients are coming to you and you say, yeah, let's say I get to go to work instead of I've got to go to work. And they look at you and they kind of roll their eyes and go, uh-huh, that's a lie. That's not going to do anything. Either how do you talk to them, or how do you see that change happening to help assure people basically that this is worth it?
Right. So it starts foundationally. I mean, I don't just get there. We start off by that first talking about what brought them to me in the first place. What message was I putting out there that they heard?
Yeah.
And then we touch on the past. We don't dwell on it. We reflect on it and say, what were the things that you think you need to change, and why do you think you need to change it? And then we start to build some confidence around that. And once we get there, then we go, okay, let's put our foot in the water, our toe in the water, our foot in the water, our leg in, a little bit at a time, and understand that it's okay to fail, and come back and tell me what's happening. And then we make course corrections as we go along.
Yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense, that it's diving deeper into the journey than just saying that. And of course, I would recommend everyone, connect with you, learn more about what you're doing, work with you. But for those who maybe can't or aren't quite there, are there any other tips or suggestions you'd give people as they kind of start that first bit of their journey?
Yeah, it's great, because they first have to look at themselves and recognize it and make some admissions to themselves as what's holding them back.
Yeah.
What is it that's keeping me from moving forward? And that word that they'll use very often is, I can't. And what I try to teach my clients is change it to, I choose not to, or I choose to.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Instead of saying I can't, which is a defeatist, worried attitude, say I choose not to, and admit to yourself. And I tell you, this is something that I talk about, and it's a word that I'm in the process of trademarking. Is that I told you I was a people pleaser, and took everything personally and all that. And looking back on it, I realized what I was doing was I was rationalizing as to the things I was doing. And I realized that rationalize is really two words: rational lies. You're lying to yourself that it's rational to do things that goes against your core values because you're trying to feed your ego or help somebody else. So if you could look at yourself and saying, I can't do this, really is me rationalizing that I don't want to do the work for it. I'm choosing not to do it is a little better. And then you go, okay, I want to lose weight. Oh, I have no time. If you really want to lose weight, you'll find the time. You'll eat better. You'll, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But every time you say that, now if you say to myself, am I lying to myself? Am I saying rational lies?
Honestly, that was a beautiful way to say this. If you could take one thing from this, I hope that they take that concept of the rationalize, and also I choose not to, because that is one of the pieces that people get so discouraged about, is this idea of I can't. And that there's so many limitations that we put on ourselves that potentially people listening to this are even going to go, yeah, well, that works for some situations, but not mine. I really can.
Right. And what I want to challenge those people to say is, instead of saying I can't, and if you don't want to say I choose not to yet, how about saying, how can I? Right? I can't afford the new car. Great, I get it. How can I afford the new car? What do I need to do to afford the new car?
Yeah. No, totally. That's a beautiful way to say it, because then it also breaks it down into steps, right? Because also some of this is going to be, if you go from, I'm poor, I can't make money, to I'm filthy rich, that's probably a little more than your brain's going to want to do at a time. So how could I take those steps, take that action? And, one of the pieces, like you said, for example, with your exercise example and losing weight, is you could choose that. You could choose to commit that much. Of course, we all have finite time, finite resources, all of these pieces. Do you sometimes find that your clients get to this point of, well, yeah, I'm saying I want this, but I'm not willing to put in the work? Like, how do you deal with that
So
disconnect?
I actually fired a client one time.
Great.
What do you mean I fired the client? They kept coming back to me every week and saying, I know I should be doing this. I said, you know what? You need a therapist, not a coach. Because I learned this when I was in coaching school, and I use it all the time. Therapy takes people from dysfunctional to functional. Coaching takes people from functional to optimal, or to reach their potential.
Yeah.
Right? So if they keep on saying I can't, there's something deeper inside that, as a life coach, you're not willing to tell me. So go to a therapist and break it down with them. Because I ask questions. I know that the answers are inside of you.
Yeah.
Lots of times therapists tell you what to do, and then it's up to you to decide whether you want to do it or not.
Yeah. Okay, that's an interesting definition, and that certainly helps understanding maybe for some people that this is deeper related to a, smaller big T trauma that they're still trying to get over, and for some people it's maybe they're just looking to find the direction that you
Right.
can help them with of how can I do this? I know I want to change. I'm willing to put in the effort. What do I do now?
Right. Which is, I did it for myself. I was coaching. At first, I was a divorce recovery coach. Makes sense. I just came through a divorce. And a couple of years later, I looked in the mirror and I was the heaviest I ever was in my life. And I said, how did I get here? Because I chose to get there by not making the right decisions.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, what am I going to do? Well, I work from 7. I leave the house at 7. I get home at 7. So I said, okay, I'm going to wait. A friend of mine was promoting a 30-minute video on Facebook. I go, oh, let me find out about it. Workout video. I said, okay, I'll wake up 45 minutes earlier, work out at home in front of the video so that I don't have to run to the gym and do all that, and work out for the half hour and use that and then get ready for work. And what happened was, the first couple of weeks, I was throwing my guts up, even following the moderator, because I hadn't exercised in forever. But 9 months later, I was 65 pounds lighter. I had a better mindset, because not only that, I was eating better, I was reading better, I was watching better things. And that's really where the life word came from. I was meditating, and I'm ADHD. Getting me to sit for 10 minutes, even guided meditation, was hard. And I had this download, and I wrote for 2 hours, and out of that came life, because I wanted to show people how to have their best life, how to live incredibly full every day.
Wow.
That's why I made a decision.
Yeah. No, and congratulations. Those are some big, beautiful life changes. I'm wondering, because, people don't solve problems that they don't see themselves as having, right? The first step is admitting it's a problem. When you were working with clients, maybe they came to you for issue A and they're focused on that, and you're seeing this piece of, well, I could help you with issue A, but issue B is way bigger, and until you deal with that, we're not getting over there.
Exactly.
How do you help them, or do you have any suggestions for helping people really clarify, like, what is maybe the problem they should be working on from an outsider perspective, or how they really gain that I need to solve this piece for themselves?
So what I do is, part of what I talk about it, and it's part of my course as well, is going through a little thing of admission, cleansing, and celebration. Admitting that you have the things going that are holding you back.
Yeah.
Cleansing by working on yourself. And then as you're doing these little things, celebrate. Okay? And how do we do that? We set goals. We sit down and we go, okay, so what are the things that you're willing to do? I'll pull out the AIM SMART, which many people probably know what that is. It's SMART goals, specific, measurable, and all that, achievable, so on and so forth. And we break it down. And then I go, okay, now I'm your accountability partner. Okay. Next week, when we meet again, or in 2 weeks, whenever it is, come back with the answers. You know what? They come back to me, they go, I had to get the answers done because I needed to answer to you. And I laughed, because they're not really doing it for me. They think they are. Yeah. Because, as in life, when we have a spouse, we have a boss or kids or whatever it is, and we're accountable to them, we make sure to answer to them. But when we have to answer to ourselves, we rationalize and say, oh, I can't do it, or whatever. So by having the coach, that eliminates some of the rationalize.
Well, 100%. This is, very well proven, to be honest, right? People do better in co-working spaces sometimes than being alone, or even just in a Zoom meeting with someone, you're both sitting there silently focused on something, it holds you accountable in a different way. It doesn't let you get distracted. So, and I do see that as one of the powers of coaches.
Mm-hmm.
Is everyone knows their goals. Everyone has these ideas of what they would like and can't do or choose not to do. And having someone, whoever that is, to actually hold you to it is super powerful.
Yeah, I think that's the biggest job of a good coach, is being an accountability partner, and then understanding your client as to when you could push them and when you have to be a little gentle with them.
Yeah.
And you ask them, how hard do you want me to push you? You know, it's part of the things I do when I'm first talking with somebody. My first session is mostly asking them questions about themselves so I can understand how I can serve them.
Yeah, of course. That comes back to not solving problems that people don't have, finding the ones that they are seeing impacting their life. And I'm just thinking, even for people listening to this, the fact that they've committed to listen to this much about something like this probably means they're at a stage where they do want to change something, where they do have an interest in shifting their life that little bit better.
Right. You know, it's funny because somebody asked me recently, who's your client? And I said, you know what? My client is somebody who's in that existential crisis of, is this all there is in the world? Is this all there is in life? And you know, my answer to them is yes, but it's how you're looking at it.
Yeah.
Instead of saying, is this all there is, saying, I'm not going to look for the problems. I'm going to look for the opportunities.
Yeah.
Because when you're mired in that depression or mired in that, oh my God, what's going to happen next? The opportunities are just going right past you. Instead of you saying, whoa, let me get this one. Let me catch that one.
Yeah. Well, and seeing them as positive things, as opportunities, as space to explore like this.
Yeah. You see the world as you are, as you want to see it. You could see it as positive and opportunities. You could see it as negative and the world is falling apart.
And we all know people like that.
Oh, yeah.
Well, our time is flying. I do want to make sure before we get to the end, I understand you have a bit of a gift for the audience. Do you want to explain what it is?
Sure. So if you go to connectwithmartin.com, there's a few things on that page. Number one is a worksheet on the cycle of ACE, so that you could go there and put down the things that are to help you understand it better and what's things. Ask for this. Great. I'm asking for this. Next, attitude, act. What are the steps I'm going to do? Write it down. What am I going to do? And then attitude. While it's happening, note down what's going on in your mind and what you're feeling. And there's nothing negative. It's you deciding that it's negative. Look at it as neutral and how to take it from there. So there's there. And then also there's a link if you want to get in touch with me. There's a link there on how to set up a time for us to go through and do some breakthroughs.
Excellent. Well, I certainly recommend people check it out. I think it's a great resource that is in the description. So if you didn't remember that, you don't have to scroll back. It's right there for you. And I just want to thank you so much for being here today. That was absolutely fantastic.
It's my pleasure. And thank you for having me.
Well, that was my pleasure. And thank you everyone for joining, listening, and watching today. I hope you have a great week. And remember, every thought counts.